All right. Welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Health, Wisdom, and Wealth TV show. We are in powerful conversations for living your best life. And today I am so excited to welcome another guest, Maria Thomas-KEEGAN. And, I often think about those who are available to us to help us to get through some of the things that life shows up and hands us on a silver platter. And we are today going to talk about one of those things, which is getting unstuck and transitioning with ease, power, and grace from that space of unstuckness to power. My guest, Maria Thomas-KEEGAN, is a certified career and life coach for women and much more than that. She's a beautiful human being, someone I met some time ago, and we just clicked. You know how you meet those type of people and you just know that there's so much heart synergy that you have to keep the conversation going. Maria was that for me. And I'm so excited to welcome you today to the Health, Wisdom, and Wealth show. Hi, Maria.
Hello, Lynn. How are you? It's so
I
nice to be here.
I'm excellent. Thank you. It's so nice to have you here. I've been looking forward to this time since we first started talking about it, because I think that there's just some real important conversation to be had here. And to get us started, I'm just going to tell our audience a little bit about you, and then we're going to jump right into the conversations.
Okay.
So, everyone, meet Maria. She's a career and life coach for women who are in transition, contemplating transition, and being thrust into transition. She's the author of the book Upside Down to Right Side Up, Turning Transition into Triumph. And Maria helps women answer the question, who am I now? When they suddenly feel as if life has turned them upside down. And who does not feel like that at some point in their life? I could go on and talk about the fact that she helps women really realize and recognize their ability to be resilient, especially in this day and time. And I'm just going to cut to the chase and just say, Maria, this conversation has so many aspects that we could actually touch on. But as we get started, please do me the favor of telling everybody who you are and how you got on this journey to actually helping women the way that you do.
Oh boy. Um, well, who am I? That's always a great question to start with. Uh, I I'm a lot of things to a lot of people, but mostly I am just a heart-centered, compassionate woman who's been through a lot of stuff in her life. Some trauma, some tragedy, and some triumph. And what I've learned is that that's the way life works. And we go through life in cycles, and it's designed that way. So we can resist it, or we can roll with it. And I've chosen to roll with it. And what I love to do now, after my 30-year corporate career, when I realized I was really living somebody else's dream for me, um, and thinking that's all there was, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I realized that I had more to do, and I wanted to help other women get through the trauma, tragedy, and triumph of their lives with more ease and grace.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you are so right. Life is designed to be and do what life does. And that is to gift us with all aspects of what life can give to us. And it includes all of that, the triumph, the tragedy, the trauma, the joy and ecstasy. And, it really is how we respond to it. And resisting it is the part that I think we find ourselves in most of all, because we maybe don't want to change, or maybe think that that's what we have to be resigned to. I have to work this job. I have to do all of this in my business. I have, that's just what they wrote. That's what I was told.
Right.
So, you know, because we learn living life that life brings with it many challenges, and women, I believe, are inherently strong, whether we're moving up the corporate career or we're, at a place where transition is staring us in the face. Or as an entrepreneur growing our business, we can get stuck. What's one of the top two reasons that you believe that most women do get stuck?
Such a great question. And there are a lot of reasons for, and they are as individual as each one of us. But I think the one overarching reason we get stuck is fear. And that comes in all kinds of flavors, right? It's, fear of the unknown, or fear of not knowing enough. So we stay where we are because we're afraid to move beyond it. Fear of failing if we do, taking that risk, that fear of change in and of itself, right? Because we're uncomfortable with it. We don't know what to expect. So I think I think fear is probably the overarching reason in all of its shades.
Yeah, yeah. And, I know that when you have an incident that does feel traumatic, to compound in that space of fear, it's even harder to move forward. And I think of, the loss of a job, or, in this time that we're experiencing right now, maybe it's the loss of a family member. And, you're turning the mirror around and saying, is that going to happen to me? What about my family? And all of these things come into play. And how is it that we move into a space that allows for some of the flow to come in to help us continue the movement out of that stuckness?
Well, I think the first thing is, with any change, any major change, usually it's accompanied with some level of shock. And we have to allow ourselves to feel that. We are abruptly uh, knocked off our foundation. I call it turned upside down. And we have to right ourselves before we really can figure out how to move beyond this. And the other thing that happens is it comes with a whole bunch of emotions. And I believe that emotions need motion in order for us to process them and figure out how to, which ones are here to help us and which ones are here to hold us back, keep us stuck, and how do we deal with those, and which ones can we release, can we, kind of bless and release. And that's a whole process of and it takes time. And some of us move through it more quickly than others. Those of us who have been through multiple experiences with trauma, tragedy, and even triumph, that can stop us in our tracks too, because there's the fear of, okay, how do I live up to that next, right? So there are transitions in all of these things, and we need to give them the time they deserve for us to move through them with ease and grace, and our dignity intact, and growing through the process.
And I love how you said that, because that is often what we don't do, allowing ourselves the time to move through that. It is a process, and the emotions need motion. They do. They really do. It's, I think, how you also create more motion and movement. Getting stuck is a process of kind of moving yourself out of the stuck in order to keep moving. And your emotions have to play a part in that, because, I think a lot about, this so-called stages of grief. And one of the ones that I think has helped to move me more quickly is, and this might sound weird, but anger. I am so angry about what has occurred that I start asking, what can I do? For me, for someone else, what's the next move? How can I make a bigger difference? And that is movement that disrupts the stuckness that can help you to move forward.
You're right. That's such a great word too, Lynn, that, to disrupt, right? To just turn it on its own head, once you've righted yourself, right? From being upside down, but to disrupt what is threatening you, it's threatening to keep you stuck. And it's so easy for us to go, okay, I need to stay in this for a while. And sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. It sometimes takes a while to process grief, even anger, hurt, the fear, the overwhelm. It takes some time to figure out what's my next move. But what I think the second probably biggest reason that we stay stuck is that we don't know what we want.
Mm.
So we are stuck in the old ways that used to work for us, and they're not working for us anymore. So we need to get very clear. So we sometimes don't know that we have options, right? We stay stuck in a career that's not fulfilling, or maybe bored. It might be sucking the soul out of us, or a relationship even. And we stay in it because we don't know what options we have. So I think that's another reason we stay stuck.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important for me that we are in these types of conversations. Because how else do you know that there are options,
Right.
if you're not hearing it, if it's not something that is made available to you? And, I know too that the universe has a wonderful way, God has a wonderful way of putting things in front of us at any given point in time that we have no clue where it maybe even came from, yet it was the gift that we were looking for.
Yeah.
And that is what I actually am intending that this show provides, is that it just makes its way through all of the areas and ethers that it can to find the people who need these conversations, because it is a lot about the old thinking, the old things that we were taught growing up that created some of the layers and the plateaus that we have to move through to get unstuck in order to live our best lives. And what's one of the other things, I think we all hear, it's like the adage is, money doesn't grow on trees. So, we stay in this stuck place of not earning, under earning and overworking.
Right.
And what are some of the other things that you have encountered that you help women to really come to understand are not true?
Yeah, are not true. And that's actually a question I ask my clients to ask themselves when these old beliefs come up for them. It's that question. Is it true? Is it true today? You may have grown up believing that you're not smart enough. But is that true today? After all you've been through, after all your experience, is it really true? And often most often, the answer is no. And once you can say that, now you can shift your belief to something that is true for you today. And there's great power in that. So I had a client recently who called herself the background singer. She said in business, in her career, she said, I've always been the background singer. Why is that? Well, that's the way I was raised. I was raised that, girls are to be seen and not heard. And then when I went to college and then left college with my degree and got a job, I was the best support for my team and my manager and my management team. And I made them all look really, really good. And I said, so how did that work out for you? And she said, well, I did pretty well for quite a while. And then I got stuck and I couldn't go any further. I couldn't get that promotion I thought I deserved. And I said, why do you think that is? And she said, I'm not sure. And I posed this to her, I wondered if it might be that no one else saw her as the leader because she didn't demonstrate the qualities or see herself as a leader. So they never gave her the opportunity because she was so good at being the background singer. She never could find her way to taking the lead.
So you're saying that we really, one of the things that creates that to get unstuck is to see ourselves differently. And I
If
totally
that's what you
agree.
want. Right?
Yes.
So that going
Yes.
back to that, knowing what you want. So how do you want to change it? You have the power to do that.
Who do you want to be to have what it is that you want?
Exactly.
And who am I now? Who am I perceived to be?
Right.
Because that can tell a lot about who we are as well, because we may think we're something or someone, yet when we understand how it is that we're perceived, we get to see how we've been showing up, projecting, and so how do women that you've helped react to that realization?
For the most part, well, some of them resist it. But what I try to do is just be the mirror, right? So that they can see themselves when I play back to them what they've told me about their experience and how it has worked for them and what are the reactions they're getting. They often will have a light bulb moment. You know, it's like, okay, now I see. And when I hear that, I know that there now is the opportunity for a shift, for her to now step into the power of that realization and be able to change it. Because until we see something, until we can accept the reality of whatever it is in our lives, there's nothing we can do about it. So that's one of the roles I play as I work with clients, is to be a mirror for them and help them to see what got them here and help them to open the aperture to decide what is it they want, where do they want to go, what do they want to become, so that they can have what they want.
I love that. I love that. One of the things that I am a firm believer of is you cannot change that which you are not aware of, number one. And then once you are aware, you know, it's once the mind is expanded, it cannot be undone. It, you know, once you see something, you cannot unsee it.
Right.
And even if you make different decisions going forward, like, well, I'm just going to put that on the shelf over here for now, it is truly a for now, because it will show up for you at some point.
And
And
that will be one of those things that keep you stuck in one place, because you have seen it and ignored it, seen it and put it aside and said, for whatever reason, not ready, not now. And until you're ready, it will remain on the shelf. Yeah.
will remain here.
Yeah. Stuck in here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about women and health for just a moment, because one of the things that I recognize too is that when you are stuck, even if you have a desire to move through this stuckness, to get out of it, to do something, it can negatively impact your health. Because if that's the case, then you're typically not exercising, you're maybe not eating the best, you've put yourself on the shelf.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the things that you've seen that have actually manifested in women's lives that are, you know, the health things that we may want to just pay attention to?
Well, one of the very first things that I talk with my clients about is the importance of taking care of themselves first. Because when we put ourselves on the shelf or on the back burner, whatever the metaphor is you use, and take care of everyone else first, which is how we were taught. That's how most women were raised, at least in my age group, even in the next generation below me in my family were even raised like that, and they're starting to break through. But if we could teach our children to take care, our daughters especially, to take care of themselves first, we would have a whole new world. But the women that I typically coach feel guilty about taking care of themselves first. They feel that it is selfish, and it's not that. It is anything but that. When we take care of ourselves first, everyone we touch in our worlds will benefit. So I love to use the analogy of the teacup. It is, it's on the cover of my book for a very good reason. If we are the beautiful hand-painted teacup and saucer, we're the teacup, and we have this beautiful gilded gold handle, beautifully painted rim, and a matching saucer. Everything we do to fill ourselves, whatever that is for you, it's very personal stuff. Whether it is, taking a walk every morning with your dog, getting up at a certain hour and doing yoga, taking a 15-minute break every hour, 2 hours in your workday, whatever those things are, those fill your cup. Think about all those little things you do to fill your cup so that your cup is full to overflowing. And when someone asks something of you, you don't give from your cup, you give from the overflow. When we do that on a consistent basis, we are always at our best selves. We always have enough to give. We're always taking care of ourselves first. I like to say that we are both a masterpiece and a work in progress. If we honor the masterpiece and be kind to the work in progress, those are both self-care things that we can do. So that's what I think about self-care.
Well, I love that. Giving from your overflow.
Mm.
It's so important because, again, that's just not something that we learn. We live and learn it versus
Maybe.
being taught it. Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
And the masterpiece and the work in progress, and just being kind, you can be empathetic on both ends and kind to yourself, kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Maria, women want to make transitions and grow with ease and grace, yet, to many, it always seems to be a very difficult process. Why is that? And what do you recommend that we do to make it easier than it usually is or can?
Well, it's not an easy thing. So I know a lot of women who try to rush through it. Transition is a process. When change happens to us, what we go through internally is the transition. It's how we change internally. That is the transition. So we start here and we end up here. And there's been a shift in who we are, what we believe, what we think, whatever that shift is. That's the transition. And it goes in phases, just like grief does, with, slightly different explanations for the phases. I talk about 7 phases of transition in my book, but to make it very simple, if you think about transition like the seasons of nature, it starts in the fall when we recognize that something is changing. And as we begin to acknowledge it, maybe accept it, hopefully accept it, and start to move through that change, we end up in the next phase, which is winter-like. So we go into this phase of quiet, and we're processing a lot of it internally. There are glimmers of light and sometimes darkness. And there are often insights that we get about the change. And then we are excited about what we're learning, and we move into spring when the growth starts to happen and we are feeling more motivated. We understand better. We understand ourselves better. We understand what happened better. And we are making plans for making the shifts necessary to move beyond it and experience the growth from it, that springtime growth. And then we move into summer. And summer is where I call it in my book the stuff that dreams are made of, because that's when we can take everything we planned for in that darkness and with those insights, and then in winter and then in spring, all of the planning we did, and we start to put it all in motion in the summer, and we make our dreams happen at that point. So it's like that process, and it's not linear. Just like in nature, come March 21st or 20th, whatever the date is for spring to come, sometimes there's a snowstorm and we're pushed right back into winter, and we think we've just retreated, right? The truth is it doesn't last as long, right, when it happens like that. So we're going to move back into spring sooner, but that's how it ebbs and flows. So how do you make it easier? I don't have an answer for that, except don't deny it, right? Don't resist it, because resisting it will make it harder. So that's my answer for how do you make it easier? Don't make it harder. If that's a good answer.
That's a great answer. It is. It's going against the tide. It's like,
Right.
Why? When the tide is stronger than you, how about go with the flow? And yes, especially, I think, inherently we all know that whatever shifts or changes may come our way, they are going to result in what is better for us, especially if we don't resist it. Because I don't believe that the things of life come to us that are not good for us in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, I even say that, and I think about a dear friend of mine who lived through, several just horrendous years of, her father abusing her. And, I think, how could anybody think that that was good for anyone? And I look at her today, and she is such a strong person, um, a mother who is teaching her girls and her boys something, amazing that she didn't have in her life. And she's helping so many other women to not only get through their own reconciling of whatever life may have happened to them. And, even with COVID coming through and the damage that it caused, you flip the script and it has caused so many amazing things to happen. Smog lifting in LA, and, the Himalayas being seen for the first time in 30 years. And people just becoming more aware of the value of relationships, the value of family, the value of being able to work from home.
Yeah. And communicating differently, right? And things like this, having the opportunity to share these kinds of conversations before COVID, when we were doing in-person events, networking events and big events, we didn't do this kind of, we didn't have these kinds of recorded conversations that we can now share with a much larger audience. And that's important. I think that's important.
I agree.
How we communicate as families, because we've been sequestered together for so long, we are communicating in different ways, and we're more open, hopefully. There are certainly some situations that have not been helped by the closeness, but there are a lot of good things that have come from it. So we need to look for those silver linings so that we understand where the blessings can be found and where we can be grateful, because that's in and of itself also a very important element of moving through transition and getting unstuck. You can very, very often get stuck feeling like a victim. When you flip that switch and start thinking about all the things that you have to be grateful for, you can't feel the two things at the same time. The brain doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, what do you want to feel instead?
Yes, those feelings cannot coexist in the same space.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's one of the things that you encourage clients to do to help through this? Do you encourage meditation and journaling, or what?
Um, Anything that works for them. So meditation, if it works for them. It's very grounding. It's very centering. Some people, it doesn't work. They don't think they can quiet their mind quickly enough or for long enough for it to matter. Guided meditation is a great way to get started with meditation so that you're focused on someone else's voice and they are suggesting to you what you might do to relax. Finding ways to relieve your stress are the way, and do this in small steps. I think the most important thing, and it's probably it's the second it's the second activity in my program. It's to create your support system, because doing this alone is a sure bet that it will be harder and you may get stuck again. I call this, creating your own personal board of directors. So every great leader has a board of directors. They have people they can rely on when they feel alone, when they need advice, when they need to laugh, when they need legal advice or financial advice or moral support. Whatever it is for you, in whatever it is you need, you deserve to have people surrounding you who can give you that. And there is no shame in asking for help. So surround yourself with the people who can support you, who lift you up, who don't drag you down, who are, some of those people are like-minded, and some of those people are what I call up-minded. They're the ones who will really pull you along. Many of them may have been where you are, and they are now beyond that, and they know what you're going through. Don't do it alone.
That is such a difficult place to be when you're trying to do this alone.
Yeah.
And to find a coach or to become a part of a group, whether it's like a small group or a group community on Facebook to start with, to find other resources. I think that's a key piece of advice, to just decide, I'm not going to do this alone.
Right. Yeah. And if you decide that you want to make it easier, you don't want to make it harder, what are the things for you that will make it easier for you? And that's different for everyone. It's different for everyone. Some people want to read a book about it. So go find a book that will help you and read it and do something with it. Or go take an online course. Or, as you say, join a group if you are inclined to want to share your experience and ask for other people to share their experience and glean, tips and techniques. Watch podcasts. Yeah, whatever it is for you, just don't do it alone. It's too hard.
Yes, that is part of the resistance
Yeah.
that we can be in when we're trying to do it alone. I mean, and that goes with, deciding that a new career is for you, yet you're, a little wobbly about the direction to go in. And, yes, we could figure it out ourselves, but why not have someone who you can actually say is your support system? And sometimes it is not your family. Sometimes it is not your best friend. It could be, but sometimes it's not. And you want to give yourself the gift of knowing that if your best friend is going to, you can solicit that advice, but you still have to take responsibility for your own health and well-being.
Right.
And your best friend said, well, I think you should whatever, but and maybe it's stay at that job. You're making good money, you got a good position, you're not working that hard. If you do that, then you're going to be, things will change, and maybe that's still not satisfying for you. So that friend is a friend who will support you, basically, whatever you decide. However, you still are on your own as far as making a decision about what it is that you want.
And that's why those up-minded people are so important in your support network. It's those people who will get to challenge you, right? Who will get you to stretch more than you can reach. And that's what will pull you along. That's what will bring new ideas into the equation. The like-minded people, those people who love you and would do anything for you, don't want to hurt you, but they often can hold you back. They can often keep you thinking in the same old ways. And that's what got you where you are. And you're stuck. And you don't want to be stuck anymore. So what was that? What's that Albert Einstein quote? Doing the same things over and over again is the definition of insanity, and expecting a different result. I got that really messed up, but I think I conveyed the
Had all the parts to it. Continuing to do what you have been doing, and getting the results that you're getting, you'll keep getting the results that you've been getting, versus what you really want.
Right.
And, from the standpoint too of, just knowing yourself, we know whether or not we need someone who is detached emotionally and just attached emotionally and otherwise to us, to be able to see some things that we may not see for ourselves.
Right.
We all have blind spots, and how do you address that with some of your clients?
Well, one of the things I do is suggest that they become their own objective observer. So just stepping outside themselves, take a different look at the circumstance they're in, as though they are seeing it with fresh eyes. And if they can't do that, that's when they absolutely need someone else to help them. But often they can do that themselves. Change the way you look at things so the things you look at change. That is just such a profound quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I love that because it's so true. Change the way you look at things so the things you look at change. That's stepping outside of your circumstance and looking at it with fresh eyes. That's when you can start to see opportunities, ways you can shift who you are, how you want to respond to a certain situation, how you want to show up. So that's the first thing is be your own objective observer. And if you can't be that, find someone who can. There are so many other things.
There are. And, you know, Maria, I always ask everyone that I interview, especially when they're such beautiful women like yourself, you know, and in such great spirits and just overall health. What is the day in the life of Maria look like as far as your daily routine? You know, what are some of the foods, your favorite dish maybe that you eat that's a healthy dish?
Well, a day in the life of Maria. Well, I'll just tell you how it starts because that's the most important part of my day. I pretty much get up at the same time every morning and give myself between an hour and a half and 2 hours just for me. And that includes a number of different things. And each day it might be a little different, but it always includes me time. And it also always includes time with my fur babies, because for me, that's very grounding. And that's how I start my day with, reading. It could be meditation. It could be, it's always prayer, um, always my fur babies, and setting my intentions for the day and getting myself just grounded and ready. That's how I start my day. Without that, I'm not sure that I would have the attitude I have, or be as I'm a caregiver for my husband. This has been a very tough last 8 years. This is not easy, but I really have to take care of myself first in order for me to be there for him. And I get to do that every morning. He's still in bed. That's my time. When I do that, I'm good. I am good. And I do eat healthy. I had groceries been delivered for over a year to the house. And I had one of the delivery guys last weekend say, "You're going to live to be 100 because you eat really healthy," with everything he bought for me and delivered to the door. So I hope that's true. I hope that's true. I think my favorite food is, a salad. It's a salad with strawberries and berries and oranges and a protein on it. Yeah, that's probably my favorite food.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing
You're
that.
welcome.
Yes. You know, I think it's important too for us to see the inside life of those that we're kind of trying to determine whether or not, you know, do I really trust them? Do I hear what they're saying? And I think it's important to find out those tiny things that are really big things in our lives, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That is a very big part. It's probably the biggest part of my life. And the second biggest part of my life is my business. And thank the good Lord, I can do it from home, and I can help people from where I'm at. And that's important to me. And to be here at, within arm's reach, almost literally, for my husband, so that I can take care of him. Yeah.
Beautiful. Love that. So, Maria, as we are wrapping up today and bringing our conversation to a close, is there some piece of wisdom that you believe is important to share with our audience, something that you want to really have a positive impact on our audience?
I knew you were going to ask this last question, so I thought about it. And the only thing I could think about was, the thing that kept coming back into my mind is a quote that I share in my free book and I use when I speak often. And I wanted to share it with your audience because I think it will help those who are stuck maybe think about it a little bit differently. And this quote is from M. Ferguson. And if I may read it,
Please, thank you.
it's not so much that we're afraid to change or so in love with the old ways, but it's the place in between that we fear. It's like being between trapezes. It's like Linus with his blanket in the dryer. There's nothing to hold on to. So I think when you feel stuck and it feels like there's nothing to hold on to, you might benefit from having someone to talk with who's been there. And like I said before, there is no shame in asking for help. So be sure to put together your personal board of directors first and foremost, so that you know you're never alone.
Beautiful, beautiful, and such wisdom. One of the things that has been proven that is a huge contributor to illness and physical, mental, and just declining health and suicide is loneliness.
Mhm.
Feeling like we're having to do it alone. And loneliness can occur even when we're surrounded by multitudes of people, um, and people in our spaces, you know. So I love that. Thank you for that share. Set up your personal board of directors and then make sure you connect with someone outside of you. And I'll say your circle, your usual circle, because when you're looking for that honest feedback and advice, it's typically someone who does not have that same type of attachment to you
Yeah,
that will give you the best for you.
yeah.
And with that, I'm going to say thank you, Maria. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're,
Um,
thank you. It's been a pleasure. I love talking with you, Lynn.
oh, thank you. Same here. So before we actually exit, I want people to know how to connect with you. What's your website address or, you know, social media where people can connect with you there?
The, probably the easiest way is just to go to my website, and there are everything I do and all of the ways to connect with me are there. So it's transition and thrive with maria.com/start hyphen here.
Awesome. Beautiful. And we will make sure that that link is below this video so that you can find it there as well. And as part of our audience, let us know what you'd like to hear more about. I love being in these conversations, and these powerful conversations are so that you can live your best life. I'll be bringing you more experts and just beautiful heart-centered individuals to help you to hear what we know is going to feed you. And if you're a health wisdom or wealth practitioner and you'd like to share your knowledge and expertise with our audience to be in this conversation, reach out to me, PM me, message me on Facebook, LinkedIn, email me at vlynn@p3academy.com, and let's connect. So, okay, everyone, until next time, we are going to say adieu for today. And I want to leave you with this thought: live, love, and be a bigger positive impact maker in the world, because there's nothing more important than how we impact the lives of others. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of my guest, Maria Thomas-Keegan, and myself, VLYNN Hawkins, Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.